I'm going to be opening this video up with a bit of a channel update, because if I make a video actually called Update Video, I already know no one's going to watch it. Basically, this video is not being made on my regular computer. I had a bit of an issue with it. It's going to be fixed completely fine. The only thing is I don't have access to Photoshop and the stuff that's on the hard drive of that computer right now, which means I currently lost access to the OSTs of all 3 Xenoblade games, so you're probably just gonna hear like one 30-minute loop of something in the background for this video as opposed to like actual different songs like I usually do. And since I don't have Photoshop, the thumbnail and stuff is gonna be probably less high quality. And there's going to be a couple less fonts than I usually have. That's not the big deal. The actual big deal is I'm probably not going to be uploading many videos throughout the month of May, because it's an extremely busy month for me. After this weekend, or the weekend this is going up, the weekend of May 5th and 6th, is going to be my week of finals, so obviously I'm not going to have much time to do videos and stuff. Then after that, I go home for 3 days, then I go on vacation for 10 days, then I go home for 3 days, then I go to a Splatoon tournament for 4 days, and by the time I'm back, it's already, like, halfway through the first week of June. So, this is going to be the last big Xenoblade analysis-y video for about a month, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the last thing I upload for that long, because I am going to start my Kingdom Hearts Let's Play next month. Basically, each week until I come back, there's going to be one extra long Kingdom Hearts video as opposed to the shorter length episodes that I'd usually be doing. The way I'm going to do that Let's Play is going to be shorter videos than I did for X, with the exception of these first few ones. So there's going to be 4 or 5 of those coming out before I get back. Those are just going to be recorded beforehand and scheduled, obviously. And if there is some sort of update for Xenoblade or Splatoon, I'll probably make that update video in between the vacation and the Splatoon tournament, because that's going to be the only time I'm going to have access to all my stuff. But yeah, basically expect things to be really slow for the month of May, and then pick up again extremely in June, because, well, it's summer vacation, and, you know, kind of less stuff to do. I will be working, and once I figure out that schedule, I'll probably have a better upload schedule set already. I'm probably going to also start the Monado Mondays Xenoblade 1 streams around then, assuming that I actually have time on Mondays to do that. If not, I'll move it to a different day in the week and just make a different, significantly worse pun for that instead. Also, if we're talking about subscriber milestones, we're getting pretty close to 5,000, and I'm thinking that even if I don't upload much this month, I might still actually hit that by the time I come back. So, since there's not going to be any mainline Xenoblade video thing before then, I'm going to say that instead of doing like some sort of 5,000 subscribers, hey, I have 5,000 subscribers special video thing, I'm going to be opening a Discord server for the channel. It's just going to be the usual YouTuber Discord server thing. There's going to be stuff about my streams and stuff. If you subscribe to me on Twitch, there's probably going to be a channel for that. Look forward to that whenever I hit 5,000. If I do that before I come back, look forward to it in the beginning to middle of June, because I'm not going to be opening a server during a month where I'm not going to have that much access to PC where I'd be able to moderate and actually set it up very well, and B, I'd like to be online a lot during the first time of the server if the whole point of it is to like talk to me and stuff. But that's what's going to be the 5,000 subscriber thing. And for 10,000, I'm going to do the usual thing that all the YouTubers do, but not right away. I'm a firm believer in the don't open a Patreon unless your viewers like are begging you for one, so I'll start doing polls and stuff, engaging interest for that at 10,000. And also, since I don't think I'll hit 10,000 particularly soon, I could say that for the next subscriber milestone, after I finish Monado Mondays, I'm going to do the Rex vs. Cross vs. Shulk video that I've been teasing for however long. That's probably going to be 10k just based on how quickly I'm gaining subs. So look forward to that too. And without further ado, if you haven't beaten Xenoblade 2, you can stop watching this video now because I'm about to spoil the whole thing. It's pretty obvious that Xenoblade 2 takes place on a future Earth of some sort, so if you want to know where Alrest is, the short answer is it's Earth. And the denizens of this future Earth just call their planet Alrest. And they do as a fact know that it's a planet because they're not surprised to go to the top of the world tree, look down, and see that it is obviously a sphere-ish shape. So I'm pretty confident in saying, yeah, they know it's a planet, they just don't have the entire thing covered. They don't know, like, what is on most of the planet. Obviously, the entire thing's covered in Cloud Sea, but the area that you actually visit in-game, which I'm going to just call as the land of Alrest as opposed to the planet of Alrest. The planet's just going to be Earth. The titans you go to in the game collectively are Alrest. And that's because we know that all the titans you go to, besides maybe the Cliffs of Moratha, since it's dangling on the edge of the Great Void and dying and stuff, are all taking circular paths around the world tree, sort of like planets around the sun, and that's why navigation between them isn't as simple as just going from point A to point B. So we know that, and it's completely possible that there are other titans or other life entirely somewhere else in the world, not directly near the bottom of the world tree, but you never go anywhere with that in-game, and the characters don't seem to be aware of any of that themselves, especially because when you get to Elysium, it's specifically stated that this relatively small compared to the entire planet space station could hold all the people on Alrest and then some. So yeah, Alrest isn't that very big of a place compared to the size of all of Earth now. I'd say that, judging by the fact that it is capable of having multiple completely independent nations and such, as well as several uninhabited titans, I'm going to go with some sort of a medieval British Isles size population. That at least makes sense to me, but that's not relevant to any of this. Obviously, the land of Alrest isn't the entire planet, just based on that population thing. So we need to try to figure out what part of the planet that part of the Cloud Sea around the world tree is, and obviously the logical next step from that is to figure out where on Earth the world tree was built. Now, if you've seen some of my videos in the past, you probably already know what the first point of evidence I'm going to bring up is. And that is, of course, this road sign in the land of Moratha with a United States Interstate Highway symbol on it, highly suggesting that at least the part of the land of Moratha we visit used to be a city in the US somewhere. They do actually reuse the same road sign texture in Elysium for a road sign in there, but I'm more inclined to believe that the one in Moratha is the correct one, and the Elysium one is just a reuse of that texture, because while it does make sense that a space station on top of a US space elevator would be under US jurisdiction, I highly doubt that they'd need an interstate highway or anything from the interstate highway system for that. So I'm pretty sure that's just reusing the texture, while the Moratha one is something you could at least sort of consider accurate. In the past, the only thing I actually needed from that sign was, oh, it's the US. But now I need to actually use the information on the sign to try to figure out where in the US this sign would be. Now, there are a couple things that we can actually use to try to figure this out. And the first thing is the fact that it lists an exit for Central City in half a mile. The fact that it says mile and not kilometer is another indication that this is the US and not just some other fictional country that just has a similar highway type system symbol thing. And the other thing is the fact that this is specifically Interstate 236. Of course, we instantly run into two very big problems here. The first is that there are a lot of places in the United States called Central City, and the second is that Interstate Highway 236 doesn't actually exist. So, thankfully, we know as a fact that this game happens in the future, because while the date given for the Klaus incident is 20XX, I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened yet, because we'd probably know that by now. So, it takes place in 2019 at the very earliest somehow. Thankfully, that doesn't actually rule out this just being a future version of the current United States, because new interstate highways are still being added. Unfortunately, 236 is a triple-digit number, which means that it's an auxiliary highway and not one of the main single or double-digit interstates. The problem with that being triple-digit numbers! They are reused a lot for some reason, even though there are a lot more of them than double-digit ones. For example, if we go just one number down to I-235, there are ones in Iowa, Kansas, and Oklahoma, 3 completely different highways all with the same number. And since there are also a lot of central cities, this could be a bit of a problem, so we'll have to figure out some way to narrow it down to a central city that would have an interstate built near it or around it. Thankfully, the other thing about the triple-digit interstates is that they're usually built in conjunction with an existing single or double-digit highway and a major city, so it does make sense for an I-236 to be built around a city. It's just kind of hard to figure out what city it actually would be. Mercifully, out of the Wikipedia list of central cities, most of them are actually pretty small, having less than 2,000 people as of the latest census used on their article, so that does narrow things down quite a bit. Good for me, because I didn't want to have to look into that many places. I'm also going to go with the stipulation that since we have about 81.5 years for Klaus to do his thing and the world to get blown up and stuff, and whatever city becomes the land of Moritha is gonna have to be built up into this place full of skyscrapers basically packed shoulder to shoulder with one another, so I'm gonna say it probably had to be a large city to begin with, or is one in the present day, and wasn't built up from a smaller town or city or completely nothing. Now, I'm not gonna go with the fact that, oh, it already has to be a city with a bunch of large buildings, because look at the buildings. None of them really look like things that exist right now. They would have had to have been built after the present, but it makes more sense to build in an existing large city than in something completely new. Thankfully, there are sections of 3 pretty large cities in the United States that have areas called Central City. These are the urban village of Central City in Phoenix, Arizona, as well as Central City, Salt Lake City, Utah, and the neighborhood of Central City in Houston, Texas. It also then makes sense that the cities are actually large enough to have more than a half mile to actually have an exit for the center of the city and all that stuff. So we now have 3 choices to figure out where Moritha is. I'm not sure how much stock to put in this, but when flying away from Moritha in the ending, Gramps does cross a rift in the cloud sea that's dispersing, and ends up flying over the ocean into some area where the new island that all the Titans are forming is. Now, the fact that the Titans that walk like a Gormott had to get there as quickly as Gramps did kind of suggests that Moritha is at least somewhat close to an oceanic area that has islands of some sort in it. If you go by just that criteria, it's already pretty obvious what the frontrunner there would be, but for now, I'm actually going to ignore that and use a different theory that I've come up with in the past, and actually I've mentioned in passing in other videos, and that is that the World Tree was actually built out of some sort of NASA facility. Obviously, at the very least, the initial mission to create a space elevator was either US only or a US led project, since, well, the space elevator is in the United States somewhere. You'd think that if it was an international thing or led by a different country, they'd actually put the space elevator above their own country. So that at least makes sense. And also, again, it's the US government that would be providing the funding for this mission. They'd probably not really give NASA any more land than what they've already got, so you want a space elevator, you're gonna have to put it somewhere you already own. And additionally, I actually kind of think that it isn't over one of their existing launch sites like Kennedy Space Center, because this actually gives them another location that they could use to send materials and things into space, and would also keep the space elevator from cannibalizing the actual launch pads for rockets and stuff, because at the beginning at the very least, the space elevator isn't going to completely replace rocket-propelled launches to send materials and people into space, and even after it's completely built, you're still going to want to use rockets for other things, especially seeing as how big the space elevator got by the end of its construction into the World Tree. Even then, there doesn't seem to be much to send things other than people up it, although there might very well be other elevators through the orbital ring we don't see, but that's very, very besides the point. And believe it or not, one of these cities actually has a NASA facility in it. That, of course, being Houston, which is home to the Johnson Space Center. And this is actually extra cool because it doesn't have a launch facility, but it is the center for human spaceflight. its main focus is to look into missions that have people going into space on them. And you know what's really good at sending people into space, better than any mission that's existed in the past? A space elevator. You see where I'm going with this. This space elevator was obviously the easiest way to send people into space commercially, and would send more actual NASA astronauts in than anything in the past. And guess what? The Astronaut Training Center for NASA is located in the Johnson Space Center. That is where the US astronaut training program is based out of. That is where they train to go into space. So you think it would make sense to have their actual literal road into space be in the same place they train. It actually kind of saves money in sending people over to, say, Kennedy to get launched into space once they're done training. If you have astronauts already with their housing in Houston to do their training, you might as well, okay, that's your permanent house that you go to when you're done going back from space and stuff. That just kind of makes sense to me. And hey, guess what? Back when I was talking about the ocean, guess which of Phoenix, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Houston on the southern part of Texas is actually the closest to the ocean? It's Houston, although it's technically the Gulf of Mexico, not the Pacific Ocean, but that also has the additional idea of, hey, that island that Klaus sends everyone to at the end of the game, that's probably an island in the Caribbean somewhere. So, if you live in Houston, I apologize, but when you were walking around the land of Moritha, I guess you were walking around the ruins of your own hometown. And if you've always wanted to take a Caribbean vacation, I'm sorry, but it looks like Rex has already beat you to it. And until next time, this is Luxin, signing off.